I'm James Walker with Surfing the Change, and today we have our guest, Jennifer Jacoby, who's here with us. Dear old friend, healer, teacher, and she's going to share some of her stories and her journeys on the big grand adventure that we all go through. So with that being said, Jennifer, would you give us a quick little background on who you are and what you do in this great world of ours?
Ooh, you really want to get right into the deep
We're
stuff,
diving.
Right? So hello everyone, I'm Jennifer Lynn Jacoby, and I am a soul midwife, I'm a spiritual consultant, a shamanic healer, I'm a shamanic druid priestess. I do healing work through my shamanic practice, but also as an energy healer and energy worker. I do acupuncture and Chinese herbology, again, as an energy worker, energy healer. I really am a soul midwife. This is a title that my own otherworldly ancestors have given to me, that it describes what I do. I help people move through the transitional spaces of their lives, whether they're here embodied, coming into this world. I've done birthings, whether they're moving through transitions along the pathway of the soul's becoming through this world, whether they're crossing over, letting go of a physical life and birthing back into life as a soul. And I also I do a lot of healing work for lineages, for divine lineages, for ancestral lineages.
So ancestral cut ties. And
So, and also for past lives, integrating past lives, helping you go back to those places where your life has gotten stuck because of choices that have been made, whether they were your choices or an ancestor's choice or a past life's choice or a lineage choice. In order to untangle those knots, the knots of the original choice, and reweave a new pattern and help you move forward. So that's the work that I do, kind of in a nutshell.
Yeah, right?
In addition to being an acrylic artist and a bead artist.
Right. And then the humanness of you too.
Work.
So how did we all have a story. I've been in the healing arts for 30 plus years too. I've known Jennifer for a number of years, actually. And many lifetimes
20
too.
Years.
I know. And we go way back.
Way back.
So we've had a few remembrances along the way.
Yeah.
But
that's the fun part.
There's people always ask, like, how did I get into this? And I have my story. And Jennifer, how did you get into it? I mean, like, what propelled you to get into what you do now? I mean, there's always this moment where something happens and it changes the trajectory of the path that you were currently on, and you move into a completely new realm.
I've actually just hit one of those spots, and so
Awesome.
It's interesting because I've kind of come full circle on one pathway and I'm moving again. But so I almost died when I was 2.
Okay.
I had H. flu meningitis, and I was in a coma for
You had
a
what?
week.
What kind?
H. flu meningitis.
H. flu meningitis.
And it was instinct of an ER doc that actually allowed the diagnosis and got me onto antibiotics. But I was in a coma for over a week, and
at 2 years of age.
At 2 years of age, yeah.
Oof.
So after that, I've always had strange experiences. I've been able to see things and hear things that other people don't. As a kid, I remember my great-great-grandmother coming and telling me nighttime stories, all of these different ancestors coming and keeping me company. I remember playing with my friends in the woods and just thinking they were the people who lived in the woods, right?
Yes, right.
And it wasn't until I was around 10 that I realized other people don't have these experiences. Like, this is abnormal to them.
They don't see your friends.
They don't see my friends. They don't see the elderly woman at the potluck that nobody's bringing a dish of food to, right?
Right.
So I realized at that point, like, there was something kind of different about me, and everybody, just my family, is not really spiritual, so they were like, oh, you just have this interesting imagination, right?
Yeah.
What an imagination you have.
Right.
So then I was, as I grew up, I just kind of ignored it, kind of willed it away, like so many of us do. And then when I was
So you
in
closed
college,
it down.
Yeah, I just kind of turned the volume down on it, if you will. I was just like, I don't know what to do with you, so whatever.
Right.
And then when I was in college, although I had started reading tarot, I had a deck of a tarot deck from my great-grandmother that got passed down to me, and I started working with tarot like in my teens, right? I was reading tarot for people and stuff. Then when I was in college, I went through a series of events where I had some extremely startling experiences with prophetic dreams and even something around someone's death as well. And it really, that one freaked me out. And that was when I shut it down. I was like, nope, I can't deal with this. But when I got into my 20s, it was still coming at me and coming at me. I was still having these experiences and I couldn't override it. And I finally realized, like, I got to figure this out. Otherwise, I'm really seriously going to lose it, right? I'm going to go nuts. So I started studying psychic development. I started doing psychic development, psychic awareness, psychometry. And it was, when I was taking psychometry, I was having these experiences where, it's a long answer, I know, but
no, it's good.
I was having this thing where when I would drive or when I would look out the windows, all of the vehicles that I would see around me would be the same color, either white, red, or black. And other people were noticing this too, which was interesting. So
things that make you go,
you know, it was like these little gentle nudges from spirit saying, hey, come on, we really are here. Hey, we really want to talk to you. Hey, this is really important.
Right.
So I was talking with my psychometry instructor at the time because I really liked him and trusted him. And I asked him if I could sit down with a cup of tea and kind of pick his brain. And he's like, I know what you are. He's like, you're a shaman. You're a shaman. He's like, you need to study shamanism. And I'm like, what? Huh? What?
Right.
So I ended up going home that day. And my best friend calls me and says, hey, what are you doing on Friday? This was Wednesday. And I'm like, I don't know, what am I doing on Friday? And she says, I want to go to this thing, but I think it's going to be really woo-woo, so I don't want to go alone. I said, well, what's the name of the thing?
Oh boy.
And she goes, it's an introduction to shamanism, meet your animal ally. And like the hairs stood up on the back of my neck, right? And I'm like, yeah, I'm going. So I went to this hour-and-a-half class where I heard the word shamanism for the first time. And I learned about, I heard the words, the other world, like spirit and soul and allies and ancestors. These were terms I didn't have for myself. And we did our first journey down to meet our animal ally. And I came back going, I finally have a word for this thing that I've been doing my whole life, of stepping into the other world and communicating with these, soul level beings and then stepping back. Cool. And so from there, I dove in, man. I was in. Like any class I could take that involved shamanism, I took it. I studied with the Foundation for Shamanic Studies. I studied with Myron Ashowski, and then my ancestors started saying to me, "You need to learn about your culture." And that led me into Celtic shamanism, because I was also studying Etruscan shamanism, and I studied Hawaiian shamanism. I mean, I've gone and studied with all of these different cultures, but the place that calls me home is Celtic mysticism and Celtic shamanism. So that's where I am, and that's how I got there.
Love it. Woo. All right, that's a yee for sure. Okay, so that's leads me to this. Most of us aren't familiar with what would that look like and what is that Celtic shamanism. What is that exactly?
So shamanism, shamanism is an earth-based spirituality that has existed as long as humankind has. Every culture has its own version of it. Most people in this country are familiar with First Nations or Native American shamanism, the traditional medicine man. But that is only one version. The word shaman actually comes from the Siberian tribes, the Tungus tribes of Siberia, and it's a term that Michael Harner used in order to bring the concept of shamanism back into the Western psyche. Michael Harner was a white man, who had studied and explored indigenous cultures and indigenous spiritual beliefs around the world, and had identified the similarities within them, which are basically that all shamanic cultures believe that there's this physical world that we live in, as well as a world of spirit or a world of soul, and the two are really two halves of one whole.
So that's the unseen.
The unseen, right? Yeah. The world of spirit, the world of soul, the unseen, the non-physical, and the physical. What my ancestors called the other world versus this world. And they're two halves of one whole. They flow into and out of each other. They need each other. What happens in one is often defined by what happens or has happened in the other, right?
Interesting. So it's actually not a separate realm. You're saying they're actually almost in a sense dancing together in this whole play that we're going through?
They're absolutely dancing together. In fact, right now we are here doing this in the physical world, but there is also an otherworldly aspect of this moment, which we could access.
And how does that play though into what we're doing or what they're doing? Because you just said that it's equally important, this
Two halves of one
this
whole.
relationship that coexists. It's constantly going on, but I've never thought of it that way. It always seems like they're doing their thing and we're doing our thing, and you're saying no, that's not true at all. It's actually we're all doing it together.
We're all doing it together, and yes, they're doing their thing because they're not here. They're in the other world, and so their contribution to this moment is different than our contribution to this moment. We are here in the physical as co-creators, right? We are souls that are gifted with the temple of a physical body, the vehicle, the vessel of a physical body for a given lifetime. We come in with a purpose, with a soul contract, right? Which is a list of, I call it my to-do list. Here's your to-do list, your homework list for this lifetime, right?
Yeah.
But how you do that list,
And those
how
can
you
get quite
complete
long
that,
too.
oh my gosh. And may I just say, always read the fine print.
Yes,
okay?
I agree with that. I didn't read it very well. I just said, okay.
Before you agree, always read the fine print. I want to see the fine print.
Yeah, I didn't do that too well.
Yes, and it's also up to you how you do those to a certain degree, how you tick off those items, right? We come into a lifetime with things that we're working on, places where our soul is evolving, becoming, but where we're also contributing to the great song of life, right? So in the Celtic tradition, we talk about the heart song, which is the song that the sacred uses to sing you into existence, and that sings you throughout a lifetime.
Wow.
And that everything that exists has a heart song. And so the great chorus that is formed by that is called the great song of life, right? The Oran Mor versus the Oran Cree, the heart song. And so what you do with that heart song, like the sacred sings to you and then you sing back to the sacred. And this is the act of co-creation. So it's every choice that you make, every step that you take, every breath that you take. You add to the great song of life. You add to the great weaving. Here's another version of it, right? I see lifelines and lifetimes as tapestries, and sometimes cultures will talk about it this way, the great weaving. You know, everything that you do is one thread within the great weaving, right? And spirit has their actions that they weave in as well.
That's so cool.
It is. It's beautiful.
It is.
Fantastic.
But I see how not all people, but a lot of people, when they're getting into spirituality and, you know, they think they need to be spiritual. Well, in truth, we're all spiritual. We just don't know it most of the time. And whether someone is deemed as spiritual or not, they're both spiritual. Whether it's someone in the dark doing terrible things and acting out all of these things, that's still that spiritual path is what they're going through to eventually awaken to who they are. But with this other world, how does that play in? Does that also have the light in the dark?
Absolutely. So the way my ancestors and my teachers talk about this is, you know, energy just is. Like, we are all made of energy, right? All matter is comprised of energy. Physics teaches us this, right? And all soul is actually energy as well. Physical form is energy moving at a slower rate. It's more dense. The soul moves at a faster rate, so it's not as dense, right? And the soul settles into this form, you know, and drives the bus of this form for a lifetime. So yes, everyone is spiritual because everyone has a spirit. They have a soul. Otherwise, they're not here. They're not here, right? They're gone.
Well, we do run into a lot of those people too.
Well,
lights on and nobody's home.
Yes, that's true. There are those people who walk like, 20 feet above their bodies. Their soul is way up there, and you're like, come on back down. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. But
you'll see them at the stoplight. They're still at the stoplight, even though the light's green, and everyone's like, "Come on, move."
They're at last night's party still. But no, this is important. So energy just is, right? Like energy just is, it's just vibration. But it's how we relate to it that determines which path of the energy, which experience of it you have, the negative, the positive, or the neutral, right? And so all of matter, all of existence, all of experience has the negative pathway, the positive pathway, the neutral pathway, right? And it's not necessarily like you park yourself on a pathway and you go. Like as you move through different frequencies and vibrations, you can experience different things. So the person who is working along the negative path and creating dissonance and discord and pain, right, is still contributing to the or and more. They're contributing along the negative path.
Mm-hmm.
And the person who is contributing, walking along, working in that positive path, who is singing creation, who is singing beauty and harmony and resonance, right, like they're contributing to the or and more. And that person in the neutral path who says balance, peace, equalness, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're contributing that way. But it's all part of the great dance. It's all part of the great song of life.
I have an interesting question for you. So, where we are now,
Oh my goodness.
yes, is for me, it's a very exciting, and I know it's equally exciting for you.
Yes.
We are, and I want to hear your view of what we're doing. The Age of Aquarius, the Golden Age, this beautiful, amazing, innovative, high levels of consciousness. And what does your background in all of your studies and experiences, because I find those to be even more important, because we study things, we learn things, knowledge is very important, but experience and knowledge together creates the wisdom.
Well, and it's the experience that contributes, right? You can sit and study for ages and ages and ages, but it's your action. It's what you do with that. That's my tradition talks about co-creation. We are constantly co-creating with the sacred. We are here as individuals, souls in this beautiful vehicle, right? In order to co-create.
Right. So
and it's through our choices that we do that.
With that being said, where do you see we are at now with this light and dark, as polarized as it's gotten? Is it now we're moving into higher frequency, higher vibrations, and those things I feel are no longer going to be able to exist as we continue to elevate into these higher dimensions, higher frequencies of existence. What's your view on that?
So I kind of have a different language around it.
Go for it.
I don't. My tradition and my ancestors and teachers and I, we don't necessarily talk about hierarchies, higher or lower. There's discord, there's harmony, there's the breakdown versus the construction versus the neutral. But so right now we're just starting a new galactic turning.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is, we live in a beautiful cosmos of cycles. Right. The easiest one to see, of course, is the daily cycle with the sun setting,
The equinoxes.
and then rising. No, not there yet, but the
Okay.
sun setting and rising and setting again. Like that's one daily turning, one daily cycle. You have a 28-day cycle for the moon, right? She's empty, she fills, she empties again. And we have our own planet that does this. That's the wheel of the year, right? That most of these calendars and maps of the different cultures and traditions, that's the imprint for them. For the Celtic, we begin in Samhain in winter. We move through Imbolc of spring, then Beltane of summer, then Lunasa for autumn and harvest, and then we come back to winter again, right? And our cosmos has this too. These are the natural spirals, the natural cycles inherent within this beautiful fishbowl, the cosmic fishbowl that we live and swim in and dance in and co-create in, right? So we've just completed the old year, galactically speaking, right? The old year's over and we're just starting a new one. This is the long count, the Mayan long count, right?
The Kali Yuga.
Kali Yuga, right? The Kali Yuga is the end of the old year, and now you move into the new. So as we do that, you get this shift, because in all of the calendars, not all of the most of the calendars anyway, you begin in the darkness, you begin in the mother half of the year, that inward space, that space of gestating, that space of coming into the intuitive to the receptive, right? And you spend half the year there, and then you move out into the outward creative aspect. Certainly the inward space is creative as well, but it's more through that receiving versus the outward, right? Think about it with the dark moon, right? And then she grows in her light until she's full in her light, and then she empties again until she's dark again. So it's that ebbing and flowing of the inward and the outward, right? So as that happens, as the inward energies, those divine feminine energies grow, the masculine energies have to wane, right? Because there has to be there's this balance between the pulsation, right?
The yin and the yang.
The yin and the yang, right? Yeah, exactly. And so this is where you see the winter solstice, which is the longest darkness. That's Mother's Night. Then you have the equalness between them at the spring equinox. Then you have the fullness of the light, the masculine, at the summer solstice. And then you again have the equinox of balance, right? And we go through this pulsation, right? Emptying and filling, divine feminine, divine masculine, divine feminine, divine masculine. So we're just leaving this place where the divine masculine was dominant and the divine feminine is on the rise, which means you have more caring space, you have more intuitive space, you have more depth space, right? It's more of the holding, it's more of that cosmic consciousness even, right? The capacity for renewal, the capacity for revisioning, the capacity for comfort, for care, nurturing, right? That's what expands and grows in this space. And so, yes, as we are moving along the trajectory of the human species and the human existence, as we move into this, it allows us to leave some of the outward forceful dominant energies behind, because that's the divine masculine. The divine masculine is the outward, right? It's the forceful, it's the right versus the receiving. And so you're leaving that behind and making space for that other.
Very interesting. So what about, because I hear from different backgrounds too, this explosion in innovation, and I see an explosion in health too. Like we're going to have healthy food. I had a vision in March in Costa Rica. It was in the morning, and it caught me off guard because what I saw, being raised with Christianity and Revelations and the Apocalypse and all of these things, or Kali Yuga or some of the other, there's always this conflict.
Every culture has a different
and they all have different ones, but they all come to the same time with different calendar systems, which is even more amazing, pointing to the same moment. But there's this apocalyptic experience that we had to go through, and in the vision I saw, it didn't happen, and I was in shock. And I still remember going, there was no boom, there was no, it just all of a sudden, and it took off and accelerated at such a pace, and I just remember the awe of, oh my God. And there were no wars, there was no World War III, there was none of that. It stopped before it even happened. And as we're doing this right now, there's some pretty intense things going on that I'm hoping we don't go on that timeline, but it took off, and people got healthy all of a sudden because they cleaned up the food, they cleaned up the water, and all of these illnesses and diseases and everything just dropped away, and we went into a whole new paradigm that, like I said, I was in shock. So what is your background in your teaching show with that?
Well, for me, listening to that kind of experience, that vision, and I've seen in my own visionings when I've looked forward, I've seen various, it could, like, again, we can go down the negative path. We can go down the destructive path. We can rip this planet to bits. We can pull this civilization down, right? Yeah. Across the globe. We have the capacity to do it, right? We could also really all come together if we chose the positive polarity. If the bulk of the people chose the positive polarity, we can skip all that, let that go. Let's clean up the food. Let's get education for everyone. Let's make sure everybody's comfortable and safe. Let's make sure, right? Yeah. That's that positive energy. That's what I'm talking about. You've got the negative option, the positive option, and that neutral option is where this would be global, it's effortless, peace, there's balance, right? There's equality across the board. And one of the beautiful things about this planet, and sometimes really harsh things about this planet
Absolutely.
is that it's a schoolhouse for choice.
Yeah. Free will, baby.
People come here to learn, the repercussions, the responsibilities, and the outcomes of making choices. That is a big part of why we are all here. We're learning it. And we learn it in this confined space so that we don't muck up the rest of the cosmos.
Right? So we're being contained at this moment. We're behind the plastic window, licking the window.
You're in a safe lab. This is a safe lab that the divine has created for
It's
you
a
to
padded
come
room,
down,
you just
right?
don't know
No,
it.
it's not a padded room. There are windows. And you have helpers. Like I said, the divine is here with you. They are working here with you, supporting you through this process. So I think it's very possible that people could really all choose that, or not all, but the majority of them could choose to go down the positive. But you have to remember that this is, just like in every community, you have kids in school from kindergarten all the way up to postgraduate, right? And then tech school and all the other places. That's the same. That's the same for us as a species, as humanity, right? We got people from the ground floor, all the way from kindergarten, all the way up to postgraduate work and in technicum schools, right? So everybody's working where they're working.
But as you speak, that's like my whole mission of the Surfing the Change and the Conscious Community in Action, and is going out into the world and being a platform to share all of those people's stories. And how can we that you hear this commonly, oh, I can't do anything about that because I'm not I don't buy that. I believe bottom up is going to happen, is that people are waking up and people are going to find ways to get involved in things that help to bring us into a better space and into a better community, because we have to rebuild everything. It's all upside down right now, and we need to reinvert that and put the tree roots back into the earth and get the branches back up into the heavens and start working together with all of those different levels of schooling that you're talking about. It's definitely hard to work with the kindergarten levels because they're picking their nose and eating their boogers, and
they're just getting started.
But the point is that I believe the more people that we reach out to and the more people that we connect, the stronger our options and our actions are going to be in the world. How does that resonate with you?
So I would say this is something when I have, because I do mentoring work as well, and with the clients that I work with, when they say to me, what's the point? I can't impact anything, right?
That drives me nuts.
So this is what my teachers say to me, and this is my answer to them, is that this is your garden. Your life is your garden, right? And you get to choose how you tend it. It's up to you. What is it that you want to see your garden become? And that's it. That's what you tend. And by tending it, and tending it carefully, and tending it with diligence and devotion and dedication, that's the song your heart song sings back to the sacred in this moment. That means that's the song you contribute to the Or and More, to the great song of life. And if enough people are doing that, that song changes.
We change the tune.
Even if you're the only one singing your unique version of how you cultivate your land, right? Your landscape, your soulscape, your soul's contribution. If there are other people who are singing something similar, you build a resonance. You build a harmonic within that Or and More, right? And it shifts things. It may not be a direct thing where you make a choice and then all of a sudden something happens in Washington. But you change that Or and More, and you shift the song, the great song of life.
And that's why I see doing ceremonies all over the world, with larger groups.
That's why I work
and I'm
with
excited.
circles,
Yeah,
and I work with individuals,
I know.
and I work with people all over
and
the
if
world.
Jennifer's available, she's going to come back to do some other little exposés too, because she's got so much information, and we're just bringing just a little tiny.
This is just a speck.
Yeah,
but
just a tiny
we're
little
just
speck.
touching the water.
But yeah, we're kind of just coming out into the ocean right now, and we're going to start riding some waves. But
you always have a contribution to make. That's why you're here.
mhm.
And you're here.
And that's for
because
everybody
you're
listening and watching this,
Yeah.
is that everybody has this contribution.
Everybody.
And everyone's going to hit it at a different area, which is vitally important, which is where we need the diversity. But how all of this got turned upside down and polarized, it's just everything that was good has been inverted to make it look bad. And we need to get our wisdom and our knowledge going back in the right direction, and see that our diversity is our celebration. It's one of the most powerful things. That's why you travel all around the world, to go to other places and experience other cultures and see other things and have different food. But we somehow lost ourselves in the process, all of which is still good, because it makes us have to go back in and find out who we really are and get in
also part
touch.
of the process.
It is. But I can see where people get frustrated and just
Absolutely.
hit the wall and have no more hope or no more faith or no more action, because they can't do anything in the world. And I believe that we're at that moment now where we're here to pull up our bootstraps and go
Put your wellies on. Get your
and,
waders
and,
out.
and go have some fun. And you got to play along the way. That's an important thing. You do. You have to have a good time, a
Yeah.
jovial time, and really embrace all of these things.
But one of the other things that my teachers talk about is, because it's not just you creating, because it's not just humankind who are creating, because this is a co-creative process with the divine, right?
Mm-hmm.
Spirit has its contribution as well. So somehow, what is happening right here, right now, is also perfect for this moment.
Absolutely.
I know it may look like it's all upside down and
Right.
everything has gotten confused and whatever else, but in what way is that current alignment the perfect gift for you and for everybody else
Mm-hmm.
to see what it is they need to see, to figure out what it is that they need to see, to make the choice
Yes.
that carries them forward.
Yeah. And I have my answers to those.
Understood.
Yeah,
But
it's because I see that the darkness is the very thing that grabs your attention, and you can try to look away from it, but eventually it will have so much of your attention. I call it the checkmate. And no matter what you do to try and put it to the side or pull away, you can't, because it has your full soul attention. And that's when you make changes. That's when you finally say, okay, I had enough of living like this, or I've had enough of being in this kind of relationship, or I've had enough of whatever that job is. Those are the pivotal moments for an individual, or even in the collectivism of
Culture.
things.
Mhm.
Yeah, the world, where people say, we've had enough of this.
Mhm.
Let's make those changes, those things that we know true to our heart, to restructure our communities again, because they've been completely shattered, and get back to what is the roots of that, and nurture that, as you were mentioning earlier, with this feminine energy that we're moving into, to really nurture it, to help it grow, to take care of it.
But that breakdown is necessary.
Absolutely
Like,
it is.
if you think about just the agricultural year, right? Like, you plant things in the spring, you tend them during the summer, and then they bloom and they harvest. You can bring in the harvest at winter, or not winter, in autumn, right?
Yeah.
But you don't harvest everything. There's still stuff that remains.
Mhm.
There's chaff, that you don't bring in, that you let fall back fallow to the earth to remineralize the earth,
Regenerate,
right? To
yeah.
regenerate, rejuvenate, replenish
Mhm.
the earth. And then the earth has this fallow cycle that it has to go through as well before you can plant again and you can grow again.
Mhm.
And so being in this space where things are falling apart, it's a needed part of the wheel of the year. It's a needed part of that spiral of co-creation, because you have to bring in the things that you can actually use and then let the other stuff fall away.
I agree with,
But
and I love that.
it's natural. I mean, and I'm saying this because I hear so many people saying, like, oh, this is all messed up, somebody's turned us all around, and somebody somewhere took us down the wrong path. And I'm like, wait a minute. No, it's just part of the cycle, it's part of the process, right? this is part of that cycle, part of that wheel. It's the outcome of the choices that have been made in the or and more.
And I totally agree with everything you're saying.
Yeah, yeah.
And
We
I
just
love
talked about it differently.
yeah, and I always did love the analogy of the farmer.
Mm.
I think it's one of the most.
It is a beautiful.
It's a book of wisdom.
It is a book of wisdom.
I mean,
well, that's why our ancestors lived in resonance with the cycles for so long. But
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah, no, it's I everything you said, I'm like, right on. And it's, what I'm just saying is that's what I feel is the catapult to get you to want to make change.
Right.
You know, it's like,
Absolutely. You get to the point where the pain is
yeah, the pain to remain the same, grow stronger than the pain to change, and then we
exactly
leap.
right. Like,
Yeah, and
but it is also, you know, when you come face to face with the outcome of your choices, and you know, it's that brick wall that you keep bumping into, and you're like, man, there it is again. I thought I did something different, but there's that brick wall again.
And I suffer from thickness of the cranium, so it's real. It's real. I got a thick skull, but
But this is it, right? At some point, we have to realize I don't want to bump my head on that wall anymore.
Right.
Like
It hurts.
It hurts.
It actually hurts after a while.
I really don't enjoy this, and I want to do something different.
Right.
So yeah, and that's where we are.
That's
we
awesome.
have the opportunity to do something different. It's a beautiful space.
And I see so much and I'm sure you feel it too, but you can feel this birthing getting ready to go. And it's exciting. It's very exciting. I am like a little kid getting ready to open Christmas presents. It's like I can feel that. Here we go. We've been waiting for this for a long time, thousands of years.
Yep. And the astrological alignments are now pumping us for it too, with the whole new alignment of Uranus and Pluto entering. You know,
Sag is getting to get ready to do its thing.
I mean,
so, yeah.
this is we swim in this beautiful cosmic fishbowl, right? Spirit is here with us. We're co-creating, and these beautiful planets sing to us these beautiful harmonies and offer us their resonances. You know, it sends those resonances through the waters of this beautiful space that we live in to help us move and flow in these beautiful dynamics. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Jennifer.
My pleasure, my honor. My pleasure, my honor. Thank you guys.
Yeah. And thank you guys for watching. This is James Walker with Surfing the Change. You can always go to the website. We do one-on-ones. We do group healings too on Zoom. So thank you, and we'll see you again next time. And Jennifer will be coming back with more. We're going to share some of this wisdom because she's just abundant with it. All right. Love you.
Love you too.
Thank you.
Blessings.